Hey everybody, it's Katie here. Let's see, I'm just gonna check and make sure everything is working. Awesome. Okay, so I'm coming to you from my office. It's a rainy day here in Maryland, so it's a little darker in here. Today we are going to mix it up and do a little workshop. I thought that would be kind of a fun way to mix up the middle of our challenge. So just a few things first here. So I'm using a service called BeLive to do this workshop. Facebook has recently changed their rules, basically. And if you want to comment on this video, you have to, I'm looking at the directions here, you have to give BeLive permission so that I can see your name. I think that you'll still be able to comment. I just won't know where it's coming from. So let me see if I can do this. Oh, but my little board is not, okay. Hang on, guys. We are going to problem solve. It's something I tell my son all the time. Be a problem solver. Okay. I'm going to try and post that. No, that's not it. Send them a link. Okay. I think I'm just going to have to let that one go because when I do the copy of the link, it's not really a copy of the link. No. Okay. So, hey guys, listen. So if you want to comment, you can. I think you can still comment, but I won't know who it is. So, oh well. Maybe when you're watching the video on replay, if you have questions, you can comment and I can come back and answer the questions. So, back on track. Day 3, we're starting day 3, and I would love to know, how's it going? Is this feeling easy? Is it feeling like maybe a little more challenging than you thought it would? I've got my daily habits tracker, and I'm doing pretty well. You can't quite see, there you go. One thing that I find so interesting about when we track, and it's something I wanted to pass on to you to give you something to think about. When you're tracking, don't use it as a measure of success, like a yes, no, pass, fail kind of thing. Use it as a way to tune in and check out what's actually happening, right? So the goal this week in terms of sleep is to aim for 7 to 9 hours, right? Because sleep is such a core feel-good habit. Really, so many of our decisions and our food decisions depend on the sleep and the sleep quality that we get, right? So that's why sleep is such a huge part of this challenge. And man, if I'm not having bad sleep this week, so that's been something to just kind of pay attention to, like, wow, maybe I need to get into bed earlier because I'm getting to bed somewhat early, but still not getting great sleep. And then it's also helpful to kind of track your veggies. And, I got only 5 on Monday. That's interesting. Maybe the next day you only got 3 or you got 7, or it's just helpful to track and then pay attention as to why that happened. Like try and read into it a little bit. Rather than just like a pass, fail, yes, no, did it, didn't do it. Okay. So that's helpful because it can be like a learning experience. Okay. So today we are talking about how to manage stress eating and cravings. So very similar, without using willpower. So let me flip over into my slides. It's going to take me a second here. Okay. And there's a little bit of a delay. So hopefully this is showing up okay for you guys right now. So how to manage stress eating and nighttime cravings. The first thing I wanted to say is that stress eating is normal. So often I hear people use language around stress eating or cravings like they're bad or that they're out of control. But I want you to know, and I want you to kind of really take in the fact that it's just a coping strategy. It's not good or bad. It's just a coping strategy that you've used probably in the past to help yourself change your emotional or mental state. That's it. It's not good or bad. But today I wanted to maybe introduce or remind you of some other coping strategies that might help for more of a long term, because stress eating, I find, it helps you in the moment. Maybe if you get that sugar, it lifts your mood, but it's temporary, right? So we want to look for other additional coping strategies that are going to help us kind of really shift for the long term. So the problem with willpower, often we rely on a quick or a temporary fix, like willpower. Willpower is just to be used in the moment, but we only have so much willpower. Only have so much decision making ability inside of a day, right? And studies have shown that as the day goes on, you have less and less power, capability to make good decisions, right? It's like we have a finite amount of energy each day, and by the end of the day, you feel spent. And I think this is also why it's so challenging if you don't have a plan to figure out what you're going to make for dinner, right? And especially now, because things are tough. Things are tough right now in the world and with the coronavirus. And so we have all this extra worry or anxiety and stress. And so decision making might feel even more challenging now. The other problem with a temporary fix, and this is often if you Google how to control cravings, you'll come up with a lot of distraction type actions. So chewing gum, brushing your teeth, having a glass of water, which can actually be a good one because you might just be dehydrated. We've heard that before, right? Clean the kitchen. All of these are distraction things, which might work short term. And there's nothing wrong with that because that could be a bridge to a different coping strategy that's going to help you long term. But we can't rely on these quick fixes because inevitably it's going to fail. So what I like to, the image I like to use is imagine that your cravings or your stress eating, whatever, is like a beach ball. Imagine you're in the pool, right? Summer's coming up, and you're trying to hold that beach ball under the water, right? Can't let it come up. You got to hold it down. Think about how much energy it takes to push it down and suppress it, right? And then think about how much easier it is if we just let that beach ball come up to the surface and we can kind of guide it and push it where we want it to go. So to me, using willpower is kind of like suppressing the craving rather than letting it come up to the surface and kind of acknowledging it. And then we have a little bit more influence over what we can do with it. So willpower is not going to work for long. That's my main problem with it. It's just saying no. And in order to change the actual behavior, the stress eating, the nighttime snacking, it's more of a complex interaction. There's genetics and just deeply ingrained habits. Like, what did you do as a child growing up in your family after dinner? What did you do as a college student when you were stressed, right? So all of these deeply ingrained habits and your lifestyle all kind of play a role in changing stress eating and managing cravings. So the other problem with willpower is that it puts you in this lax state and this can't have thinking. And at least what happens for me, and I bet it happens to a lot of you, what happens when you tell yourself, no, I can't have that. You want it even more, right? So moving away from willpower as your one tool is going to be immensely helpful. So let's talk about 3 ways to prevent stress eating. We're not going to eat a pencil. Okay. The first strategy is to pause. So whenever you're sitting down to eat or you're getting a snack, I want you to take a minute and pause. So take at least one deep breath. You can put your hand on your chest. Take a deep breath. Or even better, you can do this breathing activity called Take 5. So Take 5 is very simple and it's catchy. So it's easy to remember how to do it. But basically, you're going to breathe in for the count of 5. You're going to hold your breath for the count of 5. Then you're going to breathe out for a slightly slower count of 5. And you're going to do that for a total of 5 times. And what this does, not only does it give you a moment to pause, which we're going to go back to the slides and talk about that, but more importantly, it helps your body switch over into this parasympathetic state. This it's early. We're just going to move away from that word for a minute. So that your body it's switching into a state of relaxation. So the sympathetic state is where your body is go, go, go. The parasympathetic state is when your body can actually relax. And that's the state that you want to be in to eat. It's also the state that our bodies want to be in when we're dealing with a lot of stress. So not only is Take 5 like a good pause, but it's also going to help your body and the hormones change out of a stressful state. Okay, so Take 5 is something to do anytime, but especially during these times. Okay, so after you breathe, check in with your body and take note of how you're feeling. Are you feeling stressed or scared or worried or anxious, bored? Sometimes it's helpful just to label how you're feeling and have that check-in moment. And more importantly, don't go numb, right? So often when we're just doing the stress eating, we check out, right? We're in front of the TV, maybe we're scrolling on our phone, right? And we check out. So rather than checking out, stay focused on the moment, tasting your food, chewing, not judging what you're eating. That's a tough part sometimes, but just really staying in your body and not checking out. That is going to help in the long term, right? Because you're actually starting to acknowledge how you're feeling and feel how you're feeling, right? First step, pause. And if you guys have any questions, you can put them in the comments. We can try that and we'll see if I can see them. Okay, so the second strategy is to gather in more coping strategies. So I find it's helpful to keep a list of activities that help you change your emotional and mental state. I think a list is helpful because the same thing doesn't work every time, right? We have different moods, we have different levels of energy, we need different things. And so keeping a list is helpful to be able to kind of tap in and say, oh, this feels good tonight. So self-care, like taking a bath. I know taking a bath is not for everybody, but whatever you do for self-care, maybe a facial, whatever, watching a funny movie, reading a book, getting off social media is really helpful. Just getting to bed early and getting more sleep. Exercise, right? Sleep and exercise are part of this challenge for a reason. It's going to help us control our stress better, which is going to help us with the stress eating. Guided meditations. There are free apps you can use. The one that I like is called Insight Timer. It has a whole slew of free meditations, but there's also Calm and Headspace. You can use apps to help you fall asleep or just to relax for a moment. Even if you don't feel anything when that guided meditation is over, you are doing good things for your body that over time will likely make a difference. Yoga or yoga nidra. So there are so many videos on YouTube, yoga videos. I like Yoga with Adriene, and she has so many kind of relaxing or bedtime yogas that are great. Yoga nidra, if you've never done yoga nidra, sorry, I'm just checking. Okay. Not like yoga where you're standing and doing poses and you're moving. Yoga nidra, you are laying on your back and you are essentially listening to a guided meditation. But there have been a lot of studies done in terms of PTSD and yoga nidra and its benefits. So give that a try. Again, you can find those guided meditations on apps, or you can find those on YouTube as well. Calming teas. So tea can have great power. This is such a small little thing, right? But we're looking for those small things. I feel like if you've gotten anything from these workshops, from the cooking, or from the challenge itself, it's just these small actions that come together and create bigger changes. So I really like valerian tea. Valerian tea has like a smell to it that's it's not particularly inviting, but traditional medicinals, which is the tea that you see in the picture there, that brand of like sleepy time valerian tea, is not too bad. Another one that I really like is the one pictured here. It's the cinnamon stress ease tea. It's good if you don't like mint. A lot of people don't like those mint teas, and most calming teas have mint in them. So this is like a cinnamon one. But find something that is going to change your emotional state. And then finally, therapy. Talk therapy can be extremely helpful, especially right now when we're sheltering in place, although that's starting to change, right? The shelter in place orders are changing. But you can do teletherapy, and that can be something that's really helpful. Find ways to support yourself and get what you need. Okay. Third strategy, add a fruit or veggie. So if you are in a space, like a space where you're thinking like, well, I'm just going to be snacking more, and that's that. Like maybe at the beginning of the shelter in place orders, I know a lot of us were like, and there are going to be more times that come up that are jarring, right? Maybe not with the coronavirus, but just in life. So if you have gotten to this space where you're like, you know what, I'm just going to snack right now. And that's just what's going to happen. The thing that I would recommend is adding a fruit or veggie. So we talked about this day one. Go check out the live workshop from the first day of the challenge. But adding a fruit or veggie is such a powerful thing you can do, and because it's such a tiny thing. So whenever you're sitting down to a meal, a snack, some stress eating, ask yourself, can I add a fruit or veggie to this? Why? One, because it gives you the pause. Remember back on tip 1 was to pause. Well, also pausing to ask, can I add a fruit or veggie to this? Gives you that moment of just pausing and thinking and breathing. So it facilitates that moment. And also when you ask yourself, can I have a fruit or veggie with this? You might get a different response. So maybe you're going for like the bag of Oreos or the thing of Oreos, and you ask, can I add a fruit or veggie to this? You might say like, oh, you know what? I have some strawberries. You know what actually sounds better is strawberries with vanilla ice cream. And then maybe you get to the point you're like, I'm kind of hungry though. So strawberries with some vanilla yogurt and some chia seeds, that actually sounds like really good right now. So you can kind of, over time, this might happen. And sometimes you might say like, no, I really just want Oreos and I'll have 2 strawberries to go with it. And that's okay too. But just give yourself the opportunity and add a fruit or veggie. You're going to be adding more nutrients. You're going to actually satisfy your body that way with fiber. So add a fruit or veggie. That is number 3. So let's talk about some real life examples. So stress eating cravings and some real life examples. These are questions that I've gotten over the years repeatedly, so I thought we could address them. So this is something I hear a lot. I've been good all day and then I blow it at night. My questions. First, do you need to be less strict during the day? Sometimes when we feel like we're being good, we're actually being very restrictive. So maybe during the day, you can give yourself a little bit more flexibility, and that would remove the need to have the junk in the evening. Number 2, I've been good all day and then I blow it at night. Use that pause that pause that we are talking about, use that and check in with your body. Also, see how much of it is a habit. If you're in the habit of snacking at night, address the habit rather than putting a label on whether you're good or bad. Longer term, try to move away from that good and bad mentality and focus on nourishing your body, right? Food is just food. And then the thought that I like to encourage people to have is, I can have this, but do I really want it? Because when we take away that, the denying yourself, right? And allow yourself to have it, sometimes, occasionally, that will remove the craving. Like, I can have it. Oh, I can have this. Okay, I'm not going to deny myself this. Now the question is, do I really want it? So if you're somebody that at the end of the day, this is a common thing that's happening. I've been good all day and I blew it at night. Oh, I was good today, but I blew it tonight. And this is happening frequently. Then that's a really powerful shift that you can practice. I can have it, but do I really want it? I'm allowed to, but do I want it? Okay. Real life example number 2, after getting the kids in bed and working all day, I deserve this. It's my treat. So whether you have kids or not, I know that this is a common thing. I've definitely said it to myself, like, I deserve this. And in terms of the kids in the bed and the evening routine, one thing I do have to say is, what's the most effective way you can be to make bedtime more peaceful? So I only share this because this used to be a struggle for me, and I just have one kiddo. But what I started doing at the time was having my valerian calming tea right after dinner, so that by the time we got to bedtime, I was already just a little bit more chill, and that really helped. So is there something you can do if bedtime is stressful? Bedtime is stressful anyway, and sometimes just accepting that is good. Can you make your treat not revolve around food or alcohol? So can you give yourself a facial? Can you, I was going to say go shopping, but maybe that's a challenge for some people too. Can you do like a really yummy bedtime yoga? Can you give or get a massage? Like, is there something else you could do that's not going to revolve around food or alcohol? Can you make a routine or a ritual around your bedtime? So often with our kiddos, we have these, we have a fairly set bedtime. Some of us do bath, and then we do teeth, and we read stories, et cetera, et cetera. It's like this process that we follow. Can you create that structure for yourself that feels so good and so relaxing that most nights you're looking forward to it? Okay. And then another one, I know that probably more people, if you are a drinker, if you drink alcohol, there's a chance that you've been drinking more alcohol during these lockdown shut-in times. And it's easy to, especially when you're home all day, to have a little, happy hour drink, and then have a drink as you're making dinner, and then have a drink after dinner, and then after dinner with the snacks. And it can really kind of add up. So I think one important thing, and this is with food or wine really, is that kind of going back to what I said in the beginning, we do it. It's a coping strategy. It helps us change our emotional state. It helps us feel better, less stress, more mellow. And I think especially with alcohol, it's important to identify if it's a habit, if it's a coping strategy, or if it's an addiction. So if it's a habit, like a lot of us are just used to having a glass of wine with dinner or 2 glasses, whatever it is. So if it's a habit that you want to change, try to think about creating a new habit. And this is where kombucha or mocktails or some other fun kind of drink can come in that's low in sugar, that's still fun and different, right? If you're using it as a coping strategy, which likely it's a couple of things, right? It might be habit and coping. But if you're using it as a coping strategy, then identify what it is you're trying to cope with. And not just what it is, but like the underlying feeling. It's the same thing as the pausing to take a breath, tuning in, and labeling how you're feeling. Wow, I'm feeling anxious. Okay, so maybe you have the wine, maybe you don't. But then maybe you can also find another activity that's going to address that anxious feeling. Okay, so really kind of get under and figure out what's happening there. And then finally, if it's an addiction, then I encourage you to get more support and help. All right, so let's recap. First and most important, practice the pause. Ideally, use that take 5 breathing exercise so you can switch your body into that parasympathetic state, put it into the relaxed state. That's helpful for stress in general. It's helpful for stress eating, but it also allows you to pause and check in with your body and then find additional outlets for stress. You're going to have a list, you're going to have different ones, and that is important because you want to be able to treat how you're feeling with different activities, okay? If we're engaging in habits that aren't supporting our health, remember that it's rarely about the food. So occasional stress eating, not a big deal. I didn't say that in the beginning. I wanted to, but these tips are really for if you're struggling with this. Of course, we are all going to occasionally stress eat. It's just what we do. But if it's something you feel like is really kind of derailing you, then remember that there's probably something else going on there. So often when we talk about food and wellness and fitness, if there is a problem, we try to fix the food part, right? Eat more salad, have more fiber, whatever. And those things are important, but that's not the full picture. So what I encourage you is to find programs, find courses, find people to follow who help you see the full picture, right? Because it's never just about the food. There's always other stuff going on. Okay, so I'm going to head on back. Okay, so I'm not sharing my screen anymore. I cannot see any comments. Let's see. No. Okay. So if you all have any questions, then you can put them in the comments and I will come back and answer them. Day 3 of Simply Back on Track Challenge. Keep tracking, keep drinking your water, find some time for movement, get those 5 to 7 servings of fruits and veggies, and try your best to get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Thank you for watching today, guys. I'll check back in with you this afternoon, this evening, and we'll be back tomorrow, back in the kitchen, making a very simple slow cooker meal. So have a fantastic day. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you later. Bye, guys.